Hello everyone, welcome to my Dragonbane solo campaign. This is chapter 4. We're heading on to waypoint 2, which is unknown waypoint. I know how much everyone loves our unknown waypoints. Those are always fun. From our last session, we just have basically made it up into the bent oak swamp. And so we're kind of continuing down the road from there. With this unknown waypoint, I am going to probably do something a little bit different. You know me, I'm always trying to do just something, put a little, whatever little weird twist I can find on things from time to time. So I think this one's going to be basically a twist in maybe oracles, I think. As I mentioned in my last session, I'm going to try to use tarot cards as an oracle as much as possible. I'm not super great with tarot cards. I am okay. I do like them as oracles. I think they're a lot of fun. I like games that use tarot cards. I think they're entertaining. They work pretty good. You got 78 cards to deal with, you know, all sorts of major and minor arcana. You can have kind of a good time to do with that sort of thing. So I like games that use tarot cards, playing cards. You know, they're just kind of unusual, right? They're kind of a step different than dice, right? Which makes things kind of interesting. So we're going to kind of do that. That being said, however, using tarots as oracles, it's kind of tricky. Tarot cards work best maybe, at least for me, with my skill level, which is not much of a skill level, tend to work pretty well and for big picture things, right? Themes, motivations, you know, quest goals, you know, like I say, like big picture things, right? You're trying to kind of get just a large, broader concept of something. They're good for concepts, right? But not so good for specific things like a room description. I find that very difficult to use tarot cards for. I'm not going to be rolling the usual flourishing fungus from a tarot card. It's difficult, at least from my imagination, to draw that kind of thing on it. So I'm not going to use it for everything, every bit and piece of it, but I will try to use it maybe for theme, mood, atmosphere. I'll try it for that. Maybe if I ever get better and more skilled, maybe I could figure out, but I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would do, okay, this is a crumbling ruin from drawing a tarot card. I just don't know if they work super well. Unless you have extremely visual tarot cards that you can really get some severe imagery out of. I think they're best used more for concepts and big picture ideas and thematic approaches than they really are for detailed, you know. You got to use both. It's good to have both generators and maybe oracles for different things for that. Anyway, enough about that. So I think for other things, like I said, those room descriptions, more specific sort of things, I have here a deck of cards. This is called, I guess, GME deck of cards. You can find these on drive-through. I'll try to look up the name and maybe post a link to it. I got them off a drive-through. They are like a GME deck. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know how much I like them. There's too much, right? Sometimes cards try to do too much. And I kind of feel like these cards, there's so much on them that they end up kind of being just, I don't know, sometimes less is more. You know what I mean? And that's kind of I feel. There's too much on these cards. But nevertheless, I think you'll see them when I take a look at them. I'll read the stuff off of them. We'll come up with some ideas from room descriptions from them. I'll use these instead. So we're going completely off radar. We're using oracles and generators that we would not normally use, the non-Dragonbane ones. I'm going to try it this time. If I don't like the GR Game Master, I'm going to GME deck. I'll probably go back to the Dragonbane oracles for that. But we'll keep with the tarots and see what I can use from that from here on. But we're going to do a full switch, I think, for that today. Okay. Phew. And if that wasn't enough, I'm going to add one more twist. I'm really going crazy with this particular unknown event. So when I wrote this chapter, this was not originally an unknown waypoint. I had written this waypoint out. But I changed it to an unknown because the waypoint that I wrote lacked clear conflict, clear challenges, and a clear obstacle, right? And I learned that pretty quickly when I was doing this waypoint campaign, that it really is important that you write something that gives you an actual challenge, a conflict, something that you need to overcome at this waypoint. Instead, when I first wrote waypoints, a lot of them were just kind of fairly friendly meet and greets, or just, I used them for descriptions, for just landmarks, maybe things that were interesting. You know, like I said, this was kind of a road trip, so I used it as a road trip. So sometimes they were just like, you know, a road trip thing, like the world's most biggest ball of yarn. Just like you would take a road trip in real life. Some of my waypoints were just stops like that. It just doesn't really work for what we want here, I don't think, in a campaign. So, but it was still a fun one. It was kind of a cool one. So I'm going to merge the two. I think I'm going to use that original waypoint I wrote to set the scene. And then I will roll unknowns and see what's really going on here. We'll see. We'll see how that works. So let me read you the waypoint as I originally wrote it. Way back in the day. You come across a small camp of 3 lizardkin. They seem friendly and communicate through sign language and a series of clicks and hisses. Perhaps you speak lizard folk. If not, you gather they are in the bog, farming / harvesting / making something. Their leader gives you a small jar of click click. They almost have their small cart full of jars of click click. And that's what I wrote. I thought it was kind of funny. So what's going to happen is when I roll this unknown waypoint and the other things involved in it, you know, the NPCs I'm meeting here, these 3 lizardmen, will just be involved in whatever else is going on in this particular unknown waypoint. They will be, I guess, NPC participants or observers or whatever as far as this is concerned. And I'll be able to use the oracles maybe to set the table with the reaction with Luce. Anyway, let's just do it and see how that works out for us. Enough talk. So, Izzek continues to ride down the path of the road, heading east down the bent oak swamp. As I stated, the road is, you know, a level above the surrounding waters and environment, the marshlands, heavily wooded. The road is, however, still relatively clear and easy to traverse. He travels east, and once again, still nighttime, but it will be dawn soon, so he's going to want to make camp. Oh, as a matter of fact, I did get kind of wounded, now that I think about it. I got kind of beat up on that trail. I lost 5 hit points. I think I'm going to take a round rest, to 1 minute rest to heal a hit point. Make me back down to only 4 hit points shy, which is still too much. If I take a longer rest, let me see. I've already kind of forgotten here. Let me go back to healing and resting here. Let's see. So I could take a stretch rest. That would allow me to heal for a D6 or 2d6 hit points to heal up on a stretch rest, or a d6 if I fail. Maybe I don't really want to use that right now. I'll save that stretch rest. 4 hit points down, I'll save it. Okay, but I will take a round rest, and per my Helm of Eternal Health, heal 1 hit point for taking a round rest. That puts me at 10 hit points. Okay, enough. All right, so as I'm traveling down this trail, there is a split in the road. The road continues to head east, but there is a split in the road heading south. Southern road is more of a dirt road. It's less, I guess, a little more of a trail heading south. But there is activity heading south. I think I'm going to have Izzek. No, I don't think so. I think Izzek hears sounds from the south, and those sounds are familiar sounds to him. This is the sound of work. Here's the sound of pickaxes working the earth, kind of the motion of bodies, the noise of people, things being carried and moved and dropped, and kind of strange noises, but it seems like activity is out. It's not super loud. Doesn't sound like it's, a horde of people, but it doesn't sound like monsters. It is definitely the sound of people working. Hobgoblins being an industrious race that are constantly mining, building, chopping wood. There is a familiar sound of home, such as it is. He's curious. Who's working in these woods? Who's chopping trees? Who's using a pickaxe on rocks? What is going on down there? Well, even though he's kind of in a hurry, curiosity's got the best of him. Maybe it's his people. Could there be some hobgoblins working in this swamp? That would be nice. Izzek would like to meet some of his people and get some more information about the Empire of the North. It doesn't sound like it's that terribly far to the south. He does take a detour, even though he swore he would do no more detours. Sure enough, he travels down this road for just about another half an hour at pork chop's pace, and comes across a small clearing that's been cleared of trees. And sure enough, there are 3 lizard folk working in this area. As one more interesting aside, just for the heck of it, these lizardmen, standees, come from the main rule book. You'll see them kind of scattered here at various points in the rule book, just as various, I don't know, let's see if I can find one here, just as various pictures. Let's see if I can find one in here. They're around. Maybe they're back in the monster area here. Not there, not there. They're not really a monster that's in here. They're just basically just general drawings that the artist must have liked lizardmen because he just drew a couple in here. There it is. There's one here under non-playable characters. There's a lizard man. That's where they got these standees from, obviously. There you go. Right here. That's him. So that's where they got them from. But oddly enough, the standees came from the rule book. The lizardmen in the bestiary look absolutely nothing like them. I just thought that was kind of a funny discrepancy. If you look up lizard folk here, there you go. There's a lizard folk in the main tome. They're much more, this would probably be more approved for the swamp, right? They're much more like geckos or, tree lizards here compared to these very scaly, desert lizards here. Anyway, that's the only thing I found that's a discrepancy between whatever is in the bestiary and what's in the rule book. That bestiary kin is obviously is not a standee. Only these are. So anyway, weird aside. So I come across these 3 lizard folk there. As Izzek approaches the clearing, the lizard folk spot him. Let's do a reaction. Normally I'd roll in the reaction here. Let's use an oracle. Let's see if I can determine how these NPCs feel about Izzek when they see him. What's their reaction? I don't think I'll use reverses. Might be a little too complicated for me to use reverses in this case. Reverses kind of mean, I imagine opposite. Anyway, 4 of Wands. 4 of Wands is actually a very good card. Typically, it's meant for celebrations, really, a party. You can tell all these bevies. This is, by the way, as you can tell, look at this. This is a tarot deck I have called the Pulp Tarot. It's very fun. It's filled with lots of this pulp art, right? Dangerous dames, fast cars, men with bad attitudes, you know, femme fatales. It's got the works in here. It's a very fun tarot deck. I like it. But this is a celebration card, right? You can tell these bevy of beauties are partying it up. They're greeting you with big smiles on their faces. They're having a party. So this must be a work party going on here. So the lizardmen do not appear hostile when Izzek approaches out of the trees. Maybe not even particularly wary. They almost seem a little too friendly. They have a cart, and they are mining the peat around this area. This is a bog. Peat is, you know, the kind of big clumps of earth that's harvested from a bog containing kind of old, like, you can get iron ore out of it, that sort of thing. In this case, they've got some strange apparatuses out here. They seem to be breaking down this black, oily peat from the ground. It's basically a black, oily earth. And they're kind of dissolving. And there's some equipments out here. For lizard folk, this is fairly sophisticated alchemical work they're here. They appear to be distilling this peat, this oily stuff, pulling the oil out of it and distilling it through this apparatus until it turns into a white liquid, and they're bottling it into jars. As Izzek approaches, they try to speak to him. They don't speak, you know, they speak their own language in clicks and hisses, and not common language. I don't know if Izzek speaks Lizardkin. I would not expect him to speak Lizardkin. This is an uncommon one, much like the Frogkin. This is one of those languages that are more uncommon, more rare. So I'm going to roll languages for him, but I'm going to give it a Bane just because of the rarity of the Lizardkin speak. If this was something like Elvish or Dwarvish, one of the main races, it would just be a normal roll. 14 and 16, that would have been non-successful. Either way, I rolled it. Okay, so he does not speak their language. He goes up and tries to talk to them and communicate. They try to communicate with him. He tries to communicate with them. He gets off his horse and off of pork chop, dismounts, and tries to approach them in a friendly manner. They seem like they actually kind of more interested in maybe trading with him. He's going to try to communicate as best as he can with them using sign languages and gestures to try to figure out what's going on. I'm going to roll now as an unknown waypoint. Let's see. I'm going to pull up my solo rules just for frame of reference. Really, to kind of give me thoughts about how I want to roll for this area here. I think I've already determined the area. This is kind of a swampy location. I think that's fine. This is a workshop, if you will. I think for subtables, I'll roll a couple subtables. Maybe I'll roll a d4 for how many subtables I want to use. 2. I'm going to use two subtitles. I'm going to kind of treat this with these GRME cards. I just shuffled them, so let's take a look at them. I'm going to draw 2 cards. For just some other descriptors in this room. Let's see, do I want to determine something if it's like a hazard, an environment, oddity, or danger? Well, maybe I'll just look at the card. Let's see if there's anything that gives me kind of inspiration. As you can tell with the GME cards, they have everything. They have like just image icons if you just want to have an image for inspiration. The other thing I have a problem with these GME cards is that They're meant for everything, right? For every game you could possibly play. So they're not geared towards fantasy. They're not necessarily geared towards sci-fi, modern, post-apocalyptic. You'll find anything on here. You'll find everything from guns to axes to, I mean, it's just a lot. Like I said, it's almost trying to do too much. I wish they were specific to a genre, maybe. Anyway. So, we got 3 words up here. Reward, frightful, ship. You have a senses section here, which is kind of interesting. The sounds of a fight, dense black smoke, an electrical jolt, moist earth. I think we already kind of got 2 of those here. You know, the alchemical equipment, you know, they're harvesting a moist, oily earth, but just as I said, makes sense here for this. Dense black smoke, part of the alchemical process. They're sending plumes of black smoke into the air. That's a good description of this location based off of what I said. Third one here is a line. I don't know, it's usually like just a specific item for a specific thing. A gathering fills the halls to bursting. That's not really applicable here for what I'm looking at. They have a belonging section here. I don't know if you want a general NPC owning, you know, what they own. Small game, dice and a cup, playing cards, handheld electronics. They got a name section here. Milton, Charlotte, Mabon. Traits, courage, wrath, sweaty. Situation, escaped convict. Broadcast station, demonstrate stubbornness. Well, I think I already got 2 descriptors with that dense black smoke and moist earth, which I already kind of described, but fits really well. Let's see what's on the second card. Inflict wondrous companion. Okay, some of the sensory information, a clattering of bones, a long-necked bird stares. Your weapon gets caught in blank, artificially recycled atmosphere. Asset or gear has a drawback. Situation, an incredible heist of village, beloved. Traits, diligent, wrath, show off. Belongings, curse, mystical disease, contract hit, psychic parasite. None of these really inspire me super well. A clattering of bones could indicate a conflict. Well, I don't know if what do I think I want to do with this? Your weapon gets caught in a long-necked bird, stares. Asset or gear has a drawback. None of these are really jabbing with me super strong. Clattering of bones. I don't know if I really want to necessarily get into a conflict here. Maybe I can do that sort of thing. But I might want to ask other oracles for this sort of thing. This does have kind of a yes-no oracle here too. Tilted scales of justice, thread and needle, likely odds. Let's see, is this, I'm going to say maybe there is a clattering of bones. I'll use the oracle to see, is it close or far? Let's see, how does this work with this yes-no oracle? No, no, yes, no question mark, no question mark. No, but with consequences maybe. There's a dice roll in here. Blah. Too difficult for me. I admit it. Maybe a little too challenging for me. Let's see. I guess maybe I will just treat this at the moment like a peaceful conflict. I guess I use the oracle to get the room descriptions fine, or I describe the room fine. I guess maybe I'll leave it with that. They seem friendly based off my tarot oracle. I'll try to communicate with them. I don't speak their language. Can I communicate with them enough? Maybe I'll use a yes no oracle. I know there's a yes no oracle on this GME card, but I'm not entirely sure how to best use it. So I'm going to use a normal oracle in here. A yes no. Can Izzek communicate enough with them to actually just get a gist of the conversation moving forward? I'm going to put it that way. Can we communicate well enough to get intent? That's the question. 5. That is a yes. So just through conversation, through treating, they hand Izzek one of these jars that they are distilling out of this moss, out of this peat. So, Izzek's pretty sure he knows what it is. He takes the jar. It's a clay jar. He opens it up. He smells it. It's lantern oil. Is all it is. Lamp oil. They are harvesting lots of jars of lamp oil, and harvesting and putting them in this cart. And they hand him one of these jars, kind of free of charge. I guess they don't charge him for it. This is a sign of goodwill, since it appears to be a party here per our oracles. And so Izzek takes the lamp. He's very gracious. He tries to ask them, where do you guys live? Do you live near here? Tries to make gestures. Can he understand that they point of where their camp may be? 3, that's a no. They point southeast around here, but he can't really see the trail. He doesn't really know. He tries to ask some more questions. Tries to gesture to the east, maybe pointing, do you know of the witch of this swamp? Do they know anything to do with the witch? 2, they don't understand what he's saying. He doesn't seem to be able to communicate any particular concept of a witch with them. His attempts at communication aren't going so well. He decides to try to give them some sort of payment for this lamp oil. I guess he'll slip them, maybe 5 copper for this lamp oil. He hands them some copper coins. They look like they don't really know what to do with the copper coins, but they take it as an exchange. Anyway, whether or not they actually use copper in any sort of way, he doesn't really know. But he's not able to communicate with them very well. Other than they're here harvesting oil, perhaps for some sort, definitely for trade, or that they use a lot of oil around here. He tries to ask them if there's any other. No, I don't think so. I don't think I have enough to communicate really well with them, at least with this sign language. I think Izzek will point out, we'll stop. Maybe we'll camp here. I think I will take a short rest. Let's go ahead and do it. And he'll make up camp here with these lizard men. He'll try to keep communicating with them. And maybe he'll share some food with them. While he was at the frog king, he did replenish his rations. I didn't really mark it down here, so I'm going to spend... I have to split food with them. So maybe one ration for me, 1 ration for them. Put down to 3 rations. And we're going to have maybe a little bit of a party. I'm going to have another thing of lamp oil. 2 lamp oil since they've given me a gift. He's already done his trading, so I don't think he has really anything he can really trade with these lizard men. So I think we're just going to treat this as a friendly encounter. He splits a meal with them while he's here. I'm going to roll a d6 to recover hit points. 2 more hit points Oh, and I'll try to make a healing check to double that. That's right. I'll try to make a healing check. What's my healing here? 7. 19. I did not really succeed at double healing, but I'll take a 10-minute rest here. Split a meal with these fellas. Gain 2 more hit points, making me almost 2 more down. And I guess we'll mosey on down the road. I don't know what else quite to do with this scenario at this point in time. I think my tarot card worked great for that sort of intent. But these GRME cards are a little hard for me to interpret from. I think I'll stay with the Dragonbane oracles at this point in time. I think the GME set was a little too ambiguous for me to really do a very good job of using them as an oracle. Thing is, as a solar player, I have tons of oracles. I have so many books with oracles in them. I of course have the Dragonbane one, and like I said, these GMA ones, maybe for a sci-fi game, maybe I got better at using them. I know people do like them. They're popular, but I myself have not been able to find a good way to use them. I mean, I can't deny the amount of information on these cards is pretty great. I mean, it's got keywords: discourage, unholy creature. There's certain circumstances in which I can really draw inspiration from, but I struggle with them. All right, well, that was waypoint 2. That was my attempt to merge merge an unknown waypoint and a written waypoint into one. I give it mostly a lukewarm success. I guess it was fine. But now you see why I got rid of that waypoint to begin with. It's fine. It's a perfectly fine waypoint, but nothing really happens. There's no real conflict, no real instigation. It's just a pleasant moment, sharing a meal and getting some lamp oil from some lizard folk. But I guess if I had driven a different card here, something less welcoming, of course there would have been more skill checks and more things to try to dissuade that. But I happen to draw a very benevolent card out of my tarot deck, so maybe they counter very benevolent. Let's move on to waypoint 3. I got time for 2. Let's do one more. Waypoint 3 is not an unknown waypoint. Izzek goes back to the main trail, continues down the road after a short rest and a little meal with the lizardmen. He doesn't really know where they're from, but they were not hostile. Obviously, they must live in this swamp somewhere. Maybe when he meets this witch, he can ask her about the lizard folk. But they didn't seem to know about the witch. If so, he couldn't quite bridge that communication gap of what they knew about her, if they knew about her at all. They seemed to indicate they lived maybe to the south, which is a little bit opposite of where he's going for the witch. Goes back to the main road, travels down the road a little further. Waypoint 3. Let's see. Waypoint 3. Here the trail almost disappears completely under a rise of bubbling swamp and noxious gas. Something else moves in the deeper water. Tread carefully to keep on the near invisible path and be wary of the motion in the water. Okay, so as Izzek travels down the road, further down the road, the trail does dip. Looks like it's been washed away partly here in the middle of this swamp, and he does have to kind of go down. There doesn't seem to be an easy way around. Him and Pork Chop stop at the edge of the water. Izzek watches this place for a while. Can he detect any movement in the water? Does he detect a danger as he's standing here? Maybe I will use something like a, let's see, what would be a good thing, an awareness check here, and see if he can see this motion in the water. 8, he does. As this stops and takes stock of the situation here, he does indeed, this part of the swamp is kind of quiet. he sees ripples in the water, and it looks, he can't tell. Is it a big fish that are swimming there? The frogkin did warn him that there are dangerous things in the water, and that it was not safe to swim in. And here he's being forced to navigate this. Pork Chop seems to balk at the situation, but he's got to cross. They got to get to the other side. Maybe he can help himself. So he does not, the water doesn't seem necessarily particularly deep, but it may have to swim. He's got a rope and grappling hook. It's a heavily wood area on the other side, maybe. Is there something that Izzek can swing the rope and grappling hook to on the other side that he can make purchase on? I'm going to say that's a little more likely on the Oracle chart. So I'm going to roll a d6, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of a likeliness on. I'm going to say 1, 2, no. Everything else is going to be a yes. 5, yes. And in fact, that's still probably maybe more an extreme yes. So yes, there is a thing he can swing to and hack his grappling hook to. Maybe he'll give himself some purchase as he gets over there. So he's going to swing his grappling hook and his rope. He's going to hurl it around a tree over there, see if he can find purchase. So that could help give them some stability as they cross the water. I think just for this, I think I'm just doing an agility check for this particular hurling that grappling hook and connecting it. 8, that is a success. So he makes an agility check, hooks the grappling hook around a tree on the opposite side. He's not going to ride Pork Chop over there. So he dismounts. But how deep is the water here? Izzek's only 4 feet tall, 4.5 feet tall. I think it's maybe likely that this water is pretty deep. I'm going to roll again on this on our fortune chart. House on a scale. How deep is this water? I'm going to keep it as it is. Well, the scale is maybe a little bit like, I'm going to say on a 1 and 2 small scale, I'm going to say Izzek can navigate it without having to swim. 2, 3, he's going to have to swim. I'm going to say on a 6, it's so deep that he might need Pork Chop's help for sure to get across. 2, okay, well, it's not so deep that he can't walk, but it goes up, I'm going to say it goes up to his chest as he's going across here. He's going to try not to disturb whatever's in the water. He's going to move very slow and very carefully and try not to disturb whatever's in the water there. I think that is going to be another skill check. I wonder if I can count that as like a bushcraft check or something. We're kind of navigating. I know bushcraft could be used for tracking. Let me just quickly look at bushcraft and see if I think I can stretch this to qualify for it. I'm kind of, I'm thinking maybe, I don't know if I need an acrobatics. That doesn't seem right. I just want more of a general concept. So like, it's not beast lore, bushcraft. The vast wilderness, the dangerous place where wild beasts will roam. The ignorant can lose their lives by choosing the wrong path through the woods or making camp on the wrong spot. Roll for bushcraft to lead the way through wilderness, make camp, cook food, stay warm, that sort of thing. So I like that. I think I want to use the bushcraft skill to kind of navigate the safest path through the other side. Izzek has hold of the rope with the grappling hook on the other side. Pork Chop's with him. They're going to be pretty careful. I think I'm going to give myself a boon with the grappling hook to help navigate a safe path through the water. Double dragon. Wow. I think I've rolled double demon before, but I don't think I've ever rolled double dragon before. Well, okay. I'll give myself a check on the bushcraft. That was a very successful. So Izzek is very careful with Pork Chop. Pork Chop hates this, by the way. He doesn't like it at all. It goes up to Pork Chop's chest, the lower part of the underbelly as well. He does not like it. He whines deep down in his throat, but Izzek tries to keep him still, and they very slowly make their way to the other side without disturbing whatever is in the water and make it up the other side. Okay, there we go. Waypoint 2 and 3 is completed. I know these were kind of brief waypoints tonight, but that's good. As I said, we're trying to move it along here. We're getting over the witch. Anyway, that's it. Made some skill checks, made some new friends. What more could you ask out of life? I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.